As of right now, a lot of people like to ask me, hey, do you believe that XCN is a better choice than XLM as of right now? Now, I can't speak on anyone's behalf, but if someone were to ask me that question, I would say yes, I do believe XCN is a better choice for me as of right now when compared to XLM. Even though nothing I say is financial advice, the reason why is because oftentimes people like to say that, hey, we're going to look for the next big thing. We're going to look for the next best thing, right? But personally, in my opinion, if I'm looking for the next best or biggest thing, I can't do that by getting into the big thing, if that makes sense, right? Like if I'm trying to find the next up and coming project that is focused on payments, focused on financial services, focused on global trade and finance, and then I'm going into these dinosaurs like an XRP and XLM, which again, some people may think, okay, what do you mean they're a dinosaur? Their market cap is really massive. That's what I mean by that. Again, if I get into that, I get it. It's a little bit more safe, but it's a little bit boring. And not to mention, I can't find, again, the next big thing if I'm going into the big thing, if that makes sense. The only way I can find that is if I find, let's say, an emerging project within that sector, which I do believe something like XCN is. Now, again, people may be thinking, okay, XCN can't, be a better choice than XLM. What do you mean by that? Well, here's the thing. In terms of adoption, Stellar is better. That is true. Not to mention, Stellar has more fans, more hype. The Stellar blockchain is just too fantastic as of right now. Too much hype, a lot of attention. It's very good news for something like XLM, of course. However, when I take a look at something like Onyx, again, the Onyx protocol, it's relatively not quote-unquote battle tested yet. But that's the beauty about it. That's why I like it so much. And if we take a look at it, there's still a lot of curiosity here when it comes to Onyx. And this sometimes does play into the narrative. Let me explain why. Because when you take a look at Goliath, which is, this supposed, right, or alleged, very amazing layer one blockchain that, Onyx say is going to be very fantastic for, the financial sector, which is expected to have a mainnet launch next year. This has a lot of speculation. There's a lot of unanswered questions here. And that I think is actually great news during a fully fledged bull run. People like curiosity. They like what something could be in the future. They like the story. They like the suspense of it, right? At least from what I've seen. And this does play into the narrative. The way you take a look at it is that XCN kind of reminds me of like XLM, but back then. Back then when it had this curiosity, right? When it had this speculation, hey, could the Stellar blockchain be good? We don't know, all this type of stuff. Like back then, those type of questions. XCN kind of reminds me of that. And again, we've seen that basic formula work so well for something like XLM. It became a very solid number 2 choice when it compared to something like XRP. Now, what could be a solid number 3 choice? Or should I say even just an alternative to something like XRP, right? I hypothetically do believe that is XCN for me because it just, again, reminds me of something like XLM. It reminds me of like an up-and-coming XLM, but way back then, but then as of right now. So then, this is a no-brainer for me. And now some people like to ask me, okay, what's your price target for XCN? It's $1. Even though that's not financial advice, keep in mind $1 is currently on an 80x from here. I'm not saying XLM is going to do bad or anything like that. I mean, it's going to do good during this bull run, but it can't do no 80x in the next like 6 or 9 months, or let's say 10 months, right? I don't think it could do that. This is just my opinion. Now, XLM is going to do good again, but it can't hypothetically do these XCN type of numbers because theoretically, at least, right? The lower something is, the more room it has to grow. So it's only logical to assume that XCN theoretically has more left in the gas tank, so to speak, to really prove what it's capable of, not in the next 20 or 30 years, but I'm just saying during this bull run. So that's the beauty about it. That's why I like it so much. Now, people may be thinking, okay, yeah, something is low, doesn't mean it'll grow. Well, I highly disagree with that in this case at least, right? I can't say in every case because when I take a look at XCN, it's focused on a market that's emerging. I think we all know that. If someone says that XCN is going to do bad in the future, does that mean that XRP or XLM is going to do bad? No, right? So then I do believe that as long as XRP and XLM has a bright future, I think XCN is always going to tag along with the ride. It's never going to defeat them by any means. But then in terms of, let's say that suspense, that hype, and the project still being around, that longevity, yeah, I just don't see why not. If someone said that, hey, Shiba, and Dogecoin is going to do good, but Pepe is going to go off into the abyss. If someone said that, I won't believe it because the way you take a look at it is that, how does that make sense? As long as Shiba, and Dogecoin has a bright future, I think Pepe will as well, right? So I think that as long as something like, XRP, XLM still has a bright future, I think so will XCN. And keep in mind, if it were to go to the price of $3, the market cap at that point, considering its current circulating supply, that right there would be around $32.5 billion, which may sound kind of crazy, really. But I mean, in some cases, I would argue no, because that's still over $100 billion less than, even XRP's current market cap. So I don't think it's too much to ask for, especially if XRP starts reaching these record-breaking figures and, starts having these very fantastic levels, especially as the bull run really kicks into fifth gear. At that point, I really don't see why XCN won't achieve a glimpse of it, right? I'm not saying it'll achieve like 50% of it or anything, but just a small glimpse of that. I just don't see why not. And when you think about it as well, right? People for quite a while, they were kind of like looking for other alternatives beyond XRP and XLM, which for quite a while didn't really exist in terms of having a very solid option. Because if we take a look at other sectors, right? Like for instance, if someone doesn't like Shiba Inu and Dogecoin, there's Pepe, right? There's that solid number 3 right there. But then for quite a while, there wasn't really that solid number 3 in this space. Sure, people would argue it's XDC, but then a lot of people still preferred XLM over that. And again, I think a major reason why that was because due to the Ripple and SEC case, hypothetically, many developers, I think, were a little bit scared or apprehensive to join in on this space. And then as a result, there wasn't that many solid competitors. Now, again, because of that, not really a solid number 3 was present until the most recent pump that we saw, where XDC really got its full validation, and then also XCN, right? XCN really began to emerge as this very solid project within this space. It showcased that very recently. And when I take a look at something like that, I do believe that I don't see why, XCN won't gain that attention again, but in a much better way after, something like XRP and XLM starts doing well during a fully fledged bull run, because now XCN is established. Now people know what XCN is. Now when people take a look at the exchange, they know that, hey, XCN is this project, right, that, is focused on the same markets as XRP and as well as XLM. So I think that actually that pump, even despite the price pullback, is actually a very good thing for the future of XCN in terms of giving it a lot of validity. Now, again, when there's over 600 million crypto owners, according to Crypto.com research, I think this bull run could be really fantastic. Theoretically, all I gotta do is just stay patient. I think there's still ways to go. My sights are, more so focused on near the end of 2025, because I think that this bull run is really far from over. I believe that, let's say during summertime, theoretically, things could start picking up again, which is why I'm not giving up when it comes to XCN. Anytime an income I'm acquiring, I'm holding, and I'm just waiting, because this really reminds me of like XLM, but really, I do believe it's a much better choice as of right now. I'm not talking about years ago. As of right now, this is my pick over XLM. However, XCN does really remind me of this up-and-coming project, which I do want to pay attention to. And again, $1 is still my price target for this bull run. And make sure to subscribe if you gain value from this video. Greatly appreciated. It's Molly the Captain, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. I'm a peace. Bye.